In this video, I'm going to explain simply why the Republican economic plan will ruin your life. So if you're a supporter of Donald Trump and Elon Musk and all the cuts that they are doing at the federal government, I'm asking you to please just watch this video till the end and to think about everything that I'm going to say, because I really believe it's going to change your opinion and your mind. So your life, your household, is a micro view of the macro. What do I mean by that? Well, very simply is that your household is in a city or town, and that city or town makes up the county, and your county makes up your state, and your state helps make up the whole of the United States. So when it comes to budgets, we can narrow this down and just take a look at your household as a micro view of what's happening to the nation as a whole. So when it comes to budgets, there are two schools of thought. One, you can cut spending, which is what the Conservatives Party wants to do. Or two, you can increase revenue. So as in the case of your household, raising revenue would look something like getting a second job or a side gig or starting your own small business to increase the revenue coming into your household. But let's take a look at why the Republican economic plan is disastrous for your quality of life. So let's say that your household, you and your significant other, maybe you have some kids, you're trying to get your budget in line, and you take the Republican conservative economic plan to cut spending. So maybe you and your significant other decide to stop eating out. That's great, so there's some savings there. Maybe you decide that you're going to stop going out for your coffee. Maybe in order to cut spending even more, you and your significant other start canceling date nights. And all these cuts are fine, but yet you have to cut even more. You have to have more savings because the prices of everything keeps increasing. Then your cost of living keeps increasing. So maybe you and your significant other have two vehicles. You have a vehicle, they have a vehicle. Makes life real easy. But you'd notice that your car payments and the insurance for the two vehicles is too high. So you sell the one car and you get rid of that payment. Now you saved a whole bunch of money. That seems great on the surface. Now let's say expenses are still too high, so you try to cut more. So maybe you decrease your grocery budget, whether it's cutting the amount of food that you purchase at the grocery store, or you decide that you are going to go with a cheaper alternative for your food, or maybe you decide to get a lower quality of food, the cheaper stuff. So instead of getting 90-10 ground beef, you decide to get 80-20, which is cheaper, but the quality of the food is worse. Lower quality food also equals a less healthier diet, leading to more health problems. And so let's say those cuts are still not enough, and you want to save even more money. So you and your significant other decide to start shopping around for a better healthcare plan, a cheaper healthcare plan. So you two find a new healthcare plan. Yeah, it's less expensive, but the deductible is way higher. So you opt into that plan instead. And now you have worse coverage. You have even more coming out of pocket when something bad happens, but at least you're covered, right? But the thing I want you to focus on here is I want you to take a look at what's happening to your lifestyle. You're cutting out everything that you could possibly enjoy. You're cutting out those coffees at your local coffee shop. You're no longer able to enjoy a meal. You're no longer going out for your lunches. Your date nights are completely gone. And now you've also cut your assets. You used to have two vehicles. Now you only have one vehicle. And you're trying to make do with the one vehicle. So maybe you have to make sacrifices there. You have to get up an hour earlier to take your significant other to work. Maybe you have to leave work an hour early to pick your significant other up from work to take them home. If you look at what's really happening to your life, if you use the Republican economic policies, is that you're diminishing your life. Your standard of living is decreasing on a daily basis. And what you are left with is non-stop cycle of work, come home, work, come home. There's no more fun. There's no more extras. There's no more hobbies. It's not in the budget. And life becomes very mundane and meaningless. The Republican economic policy is all about sacrifice, and not the good kind of sacrifice where you've been an alcoholic your whole life and you gave that up for your health. We're talking about sacrificing the small things the little things and even bigger things that make a quality life. You are stripping your own freedom away and becoming a slave to the grind. And with each cut, another piece of your life disappears. But if you take the other road, the increase the revenue side, your standard of living remains the same, and you can actually add to it. And to increase revenue from a government standpoint, all you have to do is find more income. We could start with 1, making the billionaires pay the money that they already owe. Most people don't realize that a lot of billionaires owe a lot in taxes, but they find the loopholes to avoid paying them, and they keep pushing those taxes off. We could raise the corporate tax rate. That would significantly increase our revenue source. And all of this extra money hasn't hurt your standard of living. You're able to still do and have all of the things that you had before. And now you have extra funding that you can add to it. You could add a vacation, so to speak. And the standard of living goes up. With increased revenue, the standard of living goes up. And some people will argue against this, saying, you can't tax the billionaires more, but I want to let you in on a secret. There's only been one 25-year period in the history of mankind where you could actually work yourself from poverty to owning wealth. And that was from 1948 to 1973. And the corporate tax rate was at 91%. And that is the period where Americans could live the American dream. On one income, they could buy a home, they could support their children, put them through college. So yes, we know it works. And if you don't believe me, ask yourself this: which economic policy do the multimillionaires and billionaires use? Do you see the billionaire class sacrificing their own standard of living, cutting their own income down? Do you see the billionaires not buying another yacht or not buying a 5th home because they're making sacrifices? No, the billionaire class knows the real way to wealth and prosperity, and that's to increase revenue. So they are constantly seeking ways to increase their revenue because they don't want to sacrifice their standard of living. Because the standard of living is the only thing that you have, that you deal with day in, day out, until your time expires here. So I hope looking at it from this common sense way will help you to see that the Republican economic policy only benefits the wealthy. It only benefits those at tops. It keeps you grinding away, but yet it diminishes your own standard of living at every turn. I was a Republican for decades until I learned this, until I figured out that their economic policy was just a scam, and that working harder didn't equal wealth. It just meant that the company that I worked for would benefit more from my hard labor, my longer hours, my no days off. They would reap the benefits, and they would cut my benefits so that they could increase their revenue.